My name is Marcus Thompson, and I'm 34 years old. This story is about how I went from being the family outcast to owning the most successful construction company in Denver, Colorado, while watching my relative's business crumble piece by piece over 3 long years. My family has owned Thompson Sons Construction for 3 generations. My grandfather, William Thompson, started it in 1952 with nothing but a pickup truck, a toolbox, and an unshakable work ethic. He built the company through the post-war construction boom, focusing on residential homes for returning veterans and their growing families. My father, Robert Thompson, expanded the business through the 1980s and 1990s, moving into commercial renovation projects and high-end residential construction throughout the Denver metro area. By the time Dad retired in 2010, Thompson Sons had built a reputation as one of the most reliable construction companies in Colorado, with annual revenues exceeding $8 million and a client list that read like a who's who of Denver's business community. Here's the thing about Thompson Sons Construction. The Sons part has always been highly selective, almost exclusive, you might say. Derek is my older brother, 38 years old, married to his college sweetheart, Sarah, and they have 3 children, Emma, 14, Tyler, 12, and Sophie, 9. Derek has always been the golden child, the chosen heir, the one who could do absolutely no wrong in Dad's eyes. From the time he was 16 years old, Dad groomed Derek to take over the family legacy. Derek went to business school at the University of Colorado, learned every aspect of construction management, spent summers working on job sites, and slid seamlessly into the role of company president when Dad decided to step back from day-to-day operations. Then there's me, Marcus Thompson. I'm the younger son who was never quite good enough, never quite trustworthy enough, never quite family material enough to be included in the real decisions that shaped the company's future. For 12 long, frustrating years, I worked at Thompson Sons as a project manager. I had a degree in civil engineering from Colorado State University, 10 years of field experience, and I consistently brought in some of the company's biggest and most profitable contracts. I understood construction from the ground up, literally. I'd spent summers in high school working construction jobs, learning how to frame houses, pour concrete, and troubleshoot electrical systems. I knew how to read blueprints, manage subcontractors, navigate permit processes, and keep projects on schedule and under budget. But every single time there was a board meeting, a major business decision to be made, or a family discussion about the company's strategic direction, I'd hear the same phrase that made my blood boil. "This is family business, Marcus. We'll handle it." The irony was suffocating. I am family. I'm a Thompson. I share the same last name that's painted on every company truck, printed on every business card, and displayed on the sign outside our offices. But apparently being family wasn't enough if you weren't the right kind of family member. Derek made absolutely sure I knew my place in the company hierarchy. During weekly staff meetings, he'd make comments like, "Marcus handles the day-to-day operational stuff while the real strategic decisions get made upstairs." When clients asked about company ownership or the leadership structure, Derek would introduce himself as Derek Thompson, owner and president of Thompson Sons Construction, and me as Marcus, one of our senior project managers. Never mind that we shared the same last name. Never mind that I'd personally negotiated half the contracts in the room. Never mind that I'd been the primary point of contact for many of our biggest clients for years. The pattern was always the same. I'd identify potential clients, develop relationships, understand their needs, prepare detailed proposals, and negotiate contract terms. Then, once the deal was close to being signed, Derek would swoop in for the final handshake and photo opportunity. He'd be the one quoted in the local business journal. He'd be the one receiving congratulations from industry colleagues. He'd be the one taking credit for months of my hard work. It wasn't just about recognition, though the lack of credit certainly stung. It was about being systematically excluded from decisions that affected my career, my income, and my future. When the company was considering expanding into green building technologies, I wasn't invited to those planning sessions. When Derek was evaluating new software systems for project management, my input wasn't requested. When major client relationships needed to be managed or repaired, I was kept out of those conversations. The most frustrating part was watching Derek make decisions that I knew were wrong, based on incomplete information or outdated thinking, while being powerless to influence the outcome. Thompson Sons was slowly losing market share to newer, more agile competitors, but Derek seemed oblivious to the changing landscape of the construction industry. The breaking point came during Christmas 2019 at an event that perfectly encapsulated everything wrong with the family dynamics at Thompson Sons. Every year, the Thompson family hosts a massive holiday party at Dad's house in Cherry Hills Village, one of Denver's most exclusive neighborhoods. Dad's house is a sprawling 8,000 square foot custom home that Thompson Sons built in 1998, showcasing the company's capabilities in high-end residential construction. The annual Christmas party is Part family gathering, part business networking event, with clients, subcontractors, suppliers, and local industry leaders mingling with relatives over expensive whiskey and professionally catered prime rib. The guest list typically includes about 150 people, everyone from the mayor's office to the president of the local contractors association to the owners of Denver's biggest development companies. It's the kind of event where deals get discussed, relationships get strengthened, and reputations get built or damaged. That particular year, I just closed the biggest deal in company history, a $3.2 million renovation of the historic Paramount Hotel in downtown Denver. The project was incredibly complex, involving structural engineering challenges, historical preservation requirements, coordination with city planning departments, and the delicate balance of modernizing a 1920s building while maintaining its architectural integrity. I'd spent 8 months courting the client, Jim Patterson, who owned a small portfolio of historic properties throughout Colorado. Jim was particular about details, demanding about timelines, and skeptical of contractors who overpromised and underdelivered. He'd been burned by previous construction companies that either didn't understand the complexities of historic renovation or couldn't manage the regulatory requirements. Building that relationship required dozens of meetings, site visits, detailed proposals, and careful negotiations. And I'd personally walk through every aspect of the project with Jim, from the structural assessments to the material sourcing to the permit applications. I'd brought in specialized consultants, coordinated with historic preservation societies, and developed innovative solutions for challenges like upgrading electrical systems in century-old walls without damaging original plasterwork. At the Christmas party, Derek stood up to give his annual State of the Company speech, a tradition that Dad had started and Derek had enthusiastically continued. He talked about record profits, successful project completions, and the bright future ahead for Thompson Sons Construction. The room was full of clients, competitors, and industry colleagues, all listening respectfully as Derek outlined the company's achievements. When he mentioned the Paramount Hotel renovation, Derek said, "This flagship project really shows what Thompson & Sons can accomplish when we put our minds to it. It's a testament to our family's commitment to excellence and our ability to handle the most challenging projects in the Denver market. Our family's commitment. Our ability." He took credit for 8 months of my work without mentioning my name even once. Not a word about the relationship building, the technical problem solving, or the countless hours I'd invested in making that project happen. But the real slap in the face came later that evening. I was standing near the bar talking with Jim Patterson about the renovation timeline when Derek joined our conversation. "Jim, I hope you're happy with how the project is developing," Derek said, extending his hand for a firm business handshake. "Absolutely," Jim replied enthusiastically. "Marcus here has been incredible to work with. I've never worked with a project manager who understood our vision so completely. So he gets the historical significance of what we're trying to accomplish, and he has the technical expertise to make it happen. You're really lucky to have him on your team." Derek flashed that practiced business smile he'd perfected over years of networking events. While Marcus is very good at handling the operational details, the real vision and strategic direction come from our family leadership team. We've been doing this kind of work for 70 years, so we understand what it takes to deliver exceptional results. I felt my face flush with anger and embarrassment. Derek had just dismissed my contribution to the project as handling details, while taking credit for the vision and strategic direction that had actually come from my conversations with Jim. I excused myself politely and walked outside into the cold December air. Snow was falling lightly, and the lights from Dad's house cast long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawn. I stood there for 20 minutes, watching my breath form clouds in the frigid air, trying to calm down and process what had just happened. I was done. Absolutely, completely done. But I didn't quit that night. I'm not impulsive, and I'm certainly not stupid. Quitting in anger would have been emotionally satisfying for about 5 minutes, followed by months of financial stress and professional uncertainty. Instead, I started planning. Carefully, methodically, strategically. Over the next 6 months, I quietly documented everything I'd contributed to Thompson Sons Construction. Every client relationship I'd built, every project I'd successfully managed, every innovation I'd implemented, every process improvement I'd suggested. I created detailed spreadsheets showing which contracts I'd negotiated, which clients I'd brought to the company, and what percentage of annual revenue could be directly attributed to my efforts. The numbers were more impressive than I'd expected. Over my 12 years at Thompson & Sons, I'd been the primary relationship manager for clients representing about 40% of the company's annual revenue. I'd managed projects totaling over $35 million in contract value. I'd implemented cost-saving measures that had improved profit margins by an average of 8% across all projects. I also started researching what it would take to launch my own construction company in Colorado. I studied licensing requirements, insurance needs, bonding processes, and equipment costs. I analyzed the competitive landscape, identified market opportunities, and developed preliminary business plans for different growth scenarios. The more I dug into the numbers, the more I realized that Thompson Sons wasn't as financially solid as Derek liked to pretend. They were overstaffed in administrative positions, their equipment was aging and inefficient, their overhead costs were bloated with unnecessary expenses, and they were steadily losing market share to newer, more agile competitors who could underbid them on projects while maintaining higher profit margins. The only reason Thompson Sons was still profitable was because of long-standing client relationships built over decades of reliable work. But many of those relationships were really my relationships. Clients who called me directly when they had new projects, who trusted my judgment on complex technical issues, and who recommended Thompson Sons to others, primarily because of their positive experiences working with me. In March 2020, just as the COVID-19 pandemic was beginning to reshape the business landscape, I started having quiet conversations with key clients about their future construction needs. I wasn't being disloyal or unethical. I was simply doing my job as a project manager, understanding client requirements and planning for upcoming projects. But during those conversations, something interesting started happening. Several clients began asking about my long-term plans, wondering if I was happy at Thompson Sons, and expressing concerns about the company's direction under Derek's leadership. "Marcus," said Jennifer Walsh from Walsh Property Development during a project review meeting, "can I ask you something? Are you planning to stay at Thompson Sons long-term? Because honestly, Derek has been increasingly difficult to work with. He doesn't listen to our concerns, he's constantly trying to upsell us on unnecessary upgrades, and he seems more interested in protecting his ego than delivering quality work." Similar conversations were happening with other clients. Bill Rodriguez from Rodriguez Brothers, one of our key subcontracting partners, pulled me aside after a job site meeting. "Marcus, I've got to tell you, working with Thompson Sons has become frustrating. Derek micromanages everything, second guesses our expertise, and treats us like we're disposable. The only reason we keep taking these jobs is because we enjoy working with you." Amanda Foster from Foster Real Estate Group was even more direct. "Marcus, hypothetically speaking, if you ever started your own construction company, would you be interested in bidding on our projects? Because Derek's estimates have become ridiculous, and his timelines are completely unrealistic." These conversations weren't planned or orchestrated. They were organic expressions of dissatisfaction with Derek's leadership style and management approach. But they gave me valuable insight into market opportunities and confirmed what I'd suspected. There was room for a construction company that prioritized client relationships, delivered projects on time and budget, and treated subcontractors as partners rather than servants. In June 2020, I made my move. I submitted a formal resignation letter to Derek, with copies to Dad and the company's human resources manager. Derek called me into his office the day after I submitted my resignation. His office was a shrine to Thompson Sons history, with framed photos of major projects, industry awards, and family milestones covering every wall. Behind his desk hung a large photograph of our grandfather, standing in front of his first construction truck in 1952. "What the hell is this about, Marcus?" Derek demanded, waving my resignation letter. "You can't just leave. Not now. We've got major projects starting this summer, and you're our most experienced project manager." "Actually, I can leave. I'm giving you 4 weeks' notice, which is more than required by my employment contract." "But why? What's this really about? If it's money, we can discuss a raise." "It's not about money, Derek." "Then what? Better benefits? More vacation time? A different title?" "I'm starting my own construction company." Derek laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the walls of his office. "Your own company? With what money? What clients? What equipment? You think you can just walk away from everything our family has built over 70 years and start competing with us?" "I'm not walking away from anything that was ever really mine, Derek." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means that for 12 years, I've contributed to this success without ever being truly included in its leadership. Every major decision gets made without my input. Every success gets credited to family leadership without acknowledging my role. Every client relationship I build gets treated as a company asset rather than a personal achievement." Derek leaned back in his leather chair, studying me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "This is about the Christmas party, isn't it? About the Paramount Hotel project?" "It's about 12 years of Christmas parties, Derek. 12 years of watching you take credit for work I did. 12 years of being told that family business is for family while being treated like an employee rather than a brother. You are an employee, Marcus. A valuable employee, but still an employee. Dad and I are the owners. That's how family businesses work." "No, Derek, that's how your family business works. It's not how my family business is going to work. This is ridiculous. You're throwing away a guaranteed future because your feelings got hurt." "My feelings didn't get hurt, Derek. My contributions got ignored. My expertise got dismissed, and my ideas got rejected. There's a difference. Fine, go ahead and try. You'll be back in 6 months, begging for your job back after you realize how hard it is to run a business without the Thompson name behind you. I stood up and headed toward the door. We'll see about that. Marcus, Derek called as I reached for the door handle. Don't expect any help from Dad or me when this little experiment fails. I turned around and looked at him one last time. Derek, I stopped expecting help from you 12 years ago. I'll be just fine on my own. What Derek didn't know was that I'd already secured startup funding. Remember Jim Patterson, the owner of the Paramount Hotel? He'd been so impressed with my work on the renovation project that when I'd casually mentioned I was thinking about starting my own construction company, he'd immediately expressed interest in investing. The construction industry needs people who understand that client relationships matter more than family legacy. Jim told me during a private lunch meeting at the Brown Palace Hotel. You understand that. Derek doesn't. I'd be willing to put up significant capital to help you get started. Jim wasn't just offering a small amount of seed money. He proposed investing $500,000 in exchange for a 20% equity stake in the new company. It was more than enough to cover startup costs, initial equipment purchases, and operating expenses for the first year. I've been in business for 30 years, Jim explained, and I've learned that betting on talented people is always a better investment than betting on established companies that have lost their edge. Thompson Sons is living on past reputation. You're building future success. I also didn't tell Derek that I'd already secured office space, hired 3 key employees away from other companies, and registered Morrison Construction LLC with the state of Colorado. The name Morrison came from my middle name, Marcus Morrison Thompson. And it felt appropriate for a company that would be built on my own terms rather than inherited traditions. The office space was a 3,000 square foot facility in the Denver Tech Center with room for administrative staff, a conference room for client meetings, and a warehouse area for equipment storage. It wasn't glamorous, but it was functional and professional looking. The 3 employees I'd hired were people I'd worked with at other companies before joining Thompson Sons. Sarah Chen was a brilliant project coordinator who'd left a larger construction company because she was tired of being micromanaged. Miguel Rodriguez was an experienced site supervisor who understood both residential and commercial construction. Lisa Patterson was an administrative specialist who could handle everything from permit applications to client communications. By August 2020, Morrison Construction was officially operational. By September, we'd landed our first major contract, a $1.8 million office renovation for a tech startup in Boulder. The client was a referral from Jim Patterson, who'd been quietly spreading the word about my new company within his network of business contacts. The Boulder project was exactly the kind of work that Morrison Construction was designed to handle. The client needed creative solutions for converting an old warehouse into modern office space with tight timelines and budget constraints. They wanted a construction partner who could adapt to changing requirements, solve problems creatively, and deliver high-quality results without unnecessary bureaucracy. Working on that first project reminded me why I'd fallen in love with construction in the first place. Without Derek's constant second-guessing and bureaucratic approval processes, I could make decisions quickly, implement innovative solutions, and focus entirely on delivering exceptional results for the client. The project finished 2 weeks ahead of schedule and $50,000 under budget, with the client so satisfied that they immediately recommended Morrison Construction to 3 other tech companies looking for office space solutions. But the real game changer came in October 2020, when my phone started ringing with calls from former Thompson Sons clients. Remember those conversations I'd had with clients who were frustrated with Derek's management style? Turns out many of those clients were more loyal to me personally than to the Thompson Sons brand. When word got out that I'd started my own company, they started reaching out. Marcus, this is Jennifer Walsh from Walsh Property Development. I heard you've got your own company now. We've got 3 major projects coming up next year. And honestly, Derek has been impossible to work with lately. His estimates are inflated, his timelines are unrealistic, and he doesn't listen to our input. Are you taking new clients? Marcus, it's Bill Rodriguez from Rodriguez Brothers Electrical. We heard about Morrison Construction through the contractor Grapevine. Any chance you're looking for reliable subcontractor partners? Because we're looking for a general contractor who actually returns phone calls and treats us with respect. Hi, Marcus. This is Amanda Foster from Foster Real Estate Group. Derek just quoted us $400,000 for a project that should cost half that amount. I know you just started your own company, but would you be interested in providing a competitive bid? The calls kept coming throughout October and November. By December, Morrison Construction had a project backlog worth $4.7 million, with contracts scheduled to begin in early 2021. I hired 8 more employees, including 2 experienced project managers who'd grown frustrated with Derek's micromanagement style and rigid hierarchical approach. Word was spreading through the Denver construction industry that Morrison Construction was a place where talented people could do their best work without unnecessary bureaucracy or ego-driven decision-making. Meanwhile, Thompson Sons was beginning to feel the impact of my departure. Several major clients had decided not to renew their contracts, citing concerns about project management consistency and communication issues. Derek was struggling to maintain the relationships I'd built over 12 years, largely because he'd never understood that those relationships were based on trust, expertise, and mutual respect, rather than just the Thompson family name. By Christmas 2020, the annual Thompson family holiday party had a very different atmosphere than previous years. Derek's traditional state of the company speech was notably shorter and less confident than usual. Several clients, who'd been Thompson Sons regulars for years, were conspicuously absent from the guest list. When relatives and family friends asked me about my new business venture, I could see Derek getting more uncomfortable by the minute. "How's the construction company going, Marcus?" asked my cousin Lisa, who worked as a nurse at Presbyterian St. Joseph Hospital. "Really well. We're booked solid through next summer and we're already getting inquiries about 2022 projects." "That's wonderful. What kind of projects are you working on?" Before I could answer, Derek interrupted our conversation. "Marcus is focusing on smaller residential projects mostly, different market segment than what we handle at Thompson Sons. I smiled politely. "Actually, we just signed a $2.3 million contract for a mixed-use development in Highlands Ranch. It's going to be our biggest project yet. Retail space on the ground floor, luxury condominiums on the upper floors, with some really interesting architectural challenges." The room got noticeably quieter. Several people turned to look at Derek, whose face had gone red with embarrassment and anger. "Mixed-use development?" asked my Aunt Carol. "That sounds like exactly the kind of project Thompson Sons usually handles." "It is," I replied. "The client actually approached Thompson Sons first, but they weren't satisfied with the proposal they received." Derek excused himself abruptly and headed toward the bar. I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction that my success was becoming undeniable, but sadness that family relationships had deteriorated to this point. Later that evening, Dad pulled me aside for a private conversation in his study. The room was lined with bookshelves and decorated with memorabilia from Thompson Sons' 70-year history, photographs of major construction projects, industry awards, and family milestones. "Marcus, I've been hearing that your business is doing very well." "It is, Dad. We've exceeded all of our first-year projections." "I'm proud of you for taking that risk. Starting a business takes courage. Thank you." Dad was quiet for a moment, studying the photographs on his desk. "Maybe we should talk about bringing you back into Thompson Sons as a full partner this time with real decision-making authority. Thanks for the offer, Dad, but I'm not interested." "But your family, Marcus. The Thompson Sons name should stay in the Thompson family. Funny how you remember that I'm family now that my business is successful." Dad looked hurt. "You've always been family, son. Maybe Derek didn't handle things perfectly, but you've always been part of this family." "Being part of the family and being treated like family are two different things, Dad. For 12 years, every time I tried to contribute to strategic decisions, I was told it was family business. Now that Thompson Sons is struggling and Morrison Construction is thriving, suddenly I'm family enough to be a partner?" "It's not that simple, Marcus. Actually, Dad, it is that simple. Derek made sure I understood that I wasn't really family when it came to business decisions. Now I've built something that's mine, something that succeeds because of my decisions rather than despite them." Dad sighed heavily. "What can I do to fix this?" "You can't fix it, Dad. Some things can't be undone." The year 2021 became the turning point that established Morrison Construction as a major player in the Denver construction market. We landed contracts worth $12.4 million, including a $4.8 million hospital renovation project that had originally been pitched to Thompson Sons. The hospital project was particularly satisfying because it demonstrated everything that was wrong with Derek's approach to client relationships. Presbyterian St. Joseph Hospital needed to renovate their emergency department while keeping it operational 24/7, an incredibly complex logistical challenge that required creative scheduling, innovative temporary solutions, and constant communication with hospital staff. When Derek bid the project, he'd proposed a traditional approach that would have required shutting down parts of the emergency department for weeks at a time. His timeline was unrealistic, his budget included unnecessary contingencies, and his presentation showed that he didn't really understand the operational challenges of working in an active hospital environment. When the hospital administrators contacted Morrison Construction for a second opinion, I spent 3 weeks studying their operations, talking with doctors and nurses about workflow patterns, and developing a phased renovation approach that would minimize disruption to patient care. Our proposal was $800,000 less than Thompson Sons bid, with a timeline that was 6 weeks shorter and a methodology that would keep the emergency department fully operational throughout the renovation. We got the contract, and the project became a showcase for Morrison Construction's problem-solving capabilities. I hired 15 more employees during 2021, including Lisa Morrison, a brilliant project coordinator who happened to be Derek's ex-girlfriend from college. Lisa had been working for a large construction company in Dallas, but she was looking for an opportunity to move back to Colorado and work for a company that valued her expertise. The fact that Lisa had dated Derek years earlier was irrelevant to my hiring decision. She was simply the most qualified candidate for the position. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy the subtle irony of the situation. Meanwhile, Thompson Sons was clearly struggling. Derek had lost several major clients, his overhead costs were spiraling out of control, and he'd made some expensive mistakes on a downtown office renovation project that had eaten into their profit margins for months. The construction industry in Denver is relatively small, and word travels fast about which companies are thriving and which ones are struggling. At trade association meetings, supplier conferences, and subcontractor gatherings, the conversation was always the same. Morrison Construction was the rising star, while Thompson Sons was losing ground to more agile competitors. In March 2021, Derek called me for the first time since I'd left the company. "Marcus, we need to talk." "About what?" "About working together. Maybe Morrison Construction could partner with Thompson Sons on some projects, pool our resources, share expertise, that kind of thing." "What kind of partnership are you thinking about?" "Well, you'd handle the project management and client relationships, and we'd provide the equipment, bonding capacity, and industry experience." I almost laughed out loud. "Derek, I have the clients, I have skilled workers, and I have the industry experience. What exactly would Thompson Sons be providing?" "The Thompson name still means something in this industry, Marcus. We have 70 years of reputation and relationships." "Yeah, Derek. That reputation means overpriced estimates and behind-schedule deliveries." "Come on, Marcus. This is still a family business. We should be working together, not competing against each other." "You're absolutely right, Derek. Morrison Construction is a family business. My family, the people who work for me, trust me to make good decisions and share in our success." "That's not what I meant." "I know exactly what you meant. For 12 years, you told me that family business was for family. Now that your family business is struggling, you want to benefit from my family business." I hung up the phone. By the end of 2021, Morrison Construction had 32 employees, annual revenue of $18.7 million, and a reputation as one of the most reliable construction companies in Colorado. We'd completed projects ranging from small residential renovations to major commercial developments, always on time and within budget. Thompson Sons, meanwhile, was down to 21 employees and struggling to maintain their existing contracts. Derek had been forced to reduce overhead costs by laying off administrative staff and postponing equipment upgrades. The contrast was becoming impossible to ignore. At industry events, Morrison Construction was being recognized for innovation, quality, and growth, while Thompson Sons was increasingly seen as a company living on past achievements. In January 2022, I got an unexpected call from my father. "Marcus, can you come over to the house? We need to have a family meeting." "What kind of family meeting, Dad?" "About the future of both companies. Derek has something important he wants to discuss with you." When I arrived at Dad's house on a cold Saturday morning, Derek was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of financial documents spread out in front of him. He looked like he hadn't slept well in weeks. His hair was disheveled, his shirt was wrinkled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "Marcus," Dad said, "Derek has a proposal he wants to share with you." Derek cleared his throat nervously. "I want to propose a merger. Thompson Sons and Morrison Construction working together as one unified company." "Under whose leadership?" I asked. "Well, we'd need to work out the details, but obviously I have more experience running a large-scale operation. Thompson Sons has been in business for 70 years. Derek, Morrison Construction is already larger than Thompson Sons by every metric that matters: annual revenue, number of employees, client satisfaction ratings, project volume. That's impossible." I pulled out my phone and showed him Morrison Construction's year-end financial summary. His face went pale as he studied the numbers. "How did you grow so fast?" "By treating clients like partners instead of paychecks. By delivering projects on time and on budget, by hiring talented people and actually listening to their ideas, by making decisions based on what's best for business rather than what protects someone's ego." Dad leaned forward across the table. "Marcus, what would it take for you to consider bringing Morrison Construction back into the Thompson family business?" "It wouldn't be bringing Morrison Construction into the Thompson family business, Dad. It would be Thompson Sons joining Morrison Construction as a subsidiary. That's not how family businesses work, son. It's how successful businesses work, Dad. The stronger company acquires the weaker company, not the other way around. Derek looked desperate. Marcus, we can work something out. Maybe co-leadership, shared decision-making, equal partnership. Derek, for 12 years, you made absolutely sure I understood that I wasn't really family when it came to business decisions. Every board meeting, every strategic planning session, every major contract negotiation, I was excluded because it was family business. Now that your company is failing and mine is thriving, suddenly I'm family again? I never said you weren't family, Marcus. You didn't have to say it, Derek. You showed it every single time you excluded me from board meetings. Every time you took credit for my work. Every time you introduced me as one of our project managers instead of your brother and business partner. The kitchen was silent for a long time. I could hear the grandfather clock in the hallway ticking, marking seconds that felt like hours. What do you want from us, Marcus? Dad finally asked. I don't want anything from you, Dad. Morrison Construction is successful because I built it to be successful. I hired the right people, I treat clients with respect and professionalism, and I make decisions based on what's best for the business, rather than what protects family egos or maintains traditional hierarchies. So you're just going to let the family business fail? Dad, Thompson Sons stopped being a family business the day Derek decided I wasn't family enough to be included in real decisions. Now it's just a struggling construction company that happens to share my last name. I stood up to leave. If you want to talk about Morrison Construction acquiring Thompson Sons assets, equipment, and remaining contracts, I'd be willing to consider that. But I'm not interested in mergers, partnerships, or any arrangement that puts Derek in a position of authority over my company. I left that meeting knowing that the bridge between us was permanently burned. But I also knew I'd made the right choice for my business, my employees, and my future. Over the next several months, the contrast between the two companies became even more stark. Morrison Construction landed a $7.2 million contract to build a new elementary school in Arvada, our biggest project yet, and exactly the kind of high-profile public works contract that Thompson Sons used to dominate. We also expanded into green building and renewable energy projects, positioning Morrison Construction at the forefront of sustainable construction practices that were becoming increasingly important to environmentally conscious clients. Thompson Sons lost 3 more major clients during the same period, and was forced to lay off 7 additional employees, including 2 project managers who immediately applied for positions at Morrison Construction. Derek was working 70-hour weeks trying to keep the company afloat, while his wife Sarah complained on social media about how stressed he was and how unfair it was that family members weren't supporting each other during difficult times. In September 2022, I got an unexpected call from Jim Patterson, my original investor and the owner of the Paramount Hotel. Marcus, I've got some news you might find interesting. Thompson Sons is for sale. Really? How do you know? Derek approached me about investing in the company. When I looked at their financial statements, I told him he'd be better off just selling the assets and starting fresh somewhere else. Their debt-to-revenue ratio is completely unsustainable. How much are they asking? $1.2 million for the equipment, existing contracts, client lists, and the Thompson Sons name. I thought about it for exactly 30 seconds. Make them an offer. $800,000 cash, but I only want the equipment and contracts. They can keep the Thompson Sons name. You're going to buy out your family's company? I'm going to acquire some used equipment and inherit some client relationships that I probably would have gotten anyway when Thompson Sons finally collapsed. The acquisition deal closed in November 2022. Morrison Construction purchased Thompson Sons equipment fleet, their remaining active contracts, and their client database. Derek and Dad retained ownership of the Thompson Sons name and the building that housed their offices, but there was no longer a functioning business attached to either asset. The local business media covered the acquisition extensively. The Denver Business Journal ran a front-page story titled, "Local Construction Empire Changes Hands. Morrison Construction Acquires Thompson Sons Assets." They interviewed me about the transition and the future of both companies. This acquisition allows Morrison Construction to expand our equipment capabilities while providing continuity for Thompson Sons' existing clients, I said diplomatically. We're committed to maintaining the high standards of quality and service that these clients have come to expect. Derek was also quoted in the article. We're confident that Morrison Construction will take excellent care of our former clients. Sometimes change is necessary for growth, and we wish Marcus all the best in his continued success. The translation was obvious to anyone in the construction industry. Derek was trying to save face while acknowledging that his little brother had essentially bought his company out from under him. The holidays in 2022 were particularly interesting. The annual Thompson family Christmas party was much smaller that year. Many of the business contacts and industry colleagues who had been regular attendees for decades were noticeably absent. Without a functioning construction company to promote, the event felt more like a wake than a celebration. Derek looked like he'd aged 5 years in the past 12 months. His usually confident demeanor had been replaced by a nervous energy that was painful to watch. Several relatives approached me throughout the evening, asking about job opportunities at Morrison Construction. "Marcus," my cousin Danny said, pulling me aside near the dessert table, "I heard Morrison Construction is hiring. I've got 8 years of experience in electrical work, and honestly, I could use a change." "Send me your resume, Danny. We're always looking for skilled electricians who take pride in their work. That's so cool that you're successful enough to hire family members now. I hire based on qualifications and cultural fit, not family connections. But if you're qualified and you'd be a good addition to our team, I'd be happy to consider you." Derek overheard this conversation from across the room. Later that evening, he cornered me near the bar, clearly having had several drinks. "So, now you're recruiting our relatives?" he asked, his words slightly slurred. Danny asked about job opportunities. I told him to apply through our normal hiring process like anyone else would. This is all just a game to you, isn't it? Taking over the family business, hiring away our employees, buying our equipment. Derek, I didn't take over the family business. I created a better business while you ran the family business into the ground. Dad built that company over 40 years, and you destroyed it in 12. Congratulations on that achievement. You could have helped us. Instead, you decided to compete with us. I tried to help for 12 years, Derek. Every time I offered new ideas, you shut me down. Every time I brought in major clients, you took credit. Every time I asked to be included in strategic decisions, you told me it was family business. I was protecting the company's interests. From what? Success? Growth? Innovation? New ideas? Derek walked away without answering, leaving me standing alone by the bar with a crystal tumbler of expensive whiskey that had lost its appeal. As I write this, it's been 3.5 years since I started Morrison Construction. We now have 68 employees, annual revenue of $31.4 million, and we're expanding into commercial development and property management in addition to our core construction services. We've been named Best Places to Work by Denver Business Journal 2 years running, and our employee retention rate is 96%. Morrison Construction has completed over 250 projects throughout Colorado, including schools, hospitals, office buildings, luxury residential developments, and historic renovation projects. We've won industry awards for safety, quality, innovation, and environmental sustainability. Our client retention rate is 94%, and we maintain a waiting list for new projects that extends 6 months into the future. Last month, I purchased a 15,000 square foot building in the Denver Tech Center for Morrison Construction's new headquarters. The building includes space for 100 employees, a state-of-the-art conference center for client presentations, a training facility for continuing education programs, and a workshop area for equipment maintenance and small fabrication projects. The building purchase represented a major milestone for the company. We'd grown from a startup operating out of rented space to a established business with significant real estate assets and a permanent home for our expanding operations. Derek reached out to me last week via text message. "Marcus, can we talk? I want to apologize." I called him back that evening. "What do you want to apologize for, specifically? For not recognizing your contributions when you worked at Thompson Sons, for not including you in decision-making processes, for taking credit for your work, for treating you like an employee instead of a partner. Thank you for saying that, Derek. I appreciate the acknowledgement. I also want to ask if there might be an opportunity for me at Morrison Construction." I was quiet for a long time, considering how to respond. "Derek, I appreciate the apology, and I'm glad you've had time to reflect on what happened. But Morrison Construction has a culture built on collaboration, respect, and shared success. Everyone here contributes to strategic decisions, everyone gets credit for their work, and everyone is treated as a valuable team member. I'm not sure you'd be comfortable in that environment. I could learn. I could adapt. Maybe you could, but right now we're focused on growing with the team we have. We're not looking to add senior management positions. So that's it? No second chances for family? Derek, you had 12 years to treat me like family when it came to business decisions. You chose not to. Morrison Construction is my family now. The people who work here who trust me to make good decisions, who contribute to our success and share in our profits. Blood is thicker than water, Marcus. Actually, Derek, the full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The relationships you choose and build through shared experiences are stronger than the ones you're born into." I don't understand. It means that the family I've built at Morrison Construction, based on mutual respect, shared goals, and earned trust, is more meaningful to me than the family I was born into but never really included in. Some people in our extended family think I'm being vindictive or holding grudges. Maybe I am. But after 12 years of being told I wasn't good enough, smart enough, or family enough to be included in real decisions, I built something that speaks for itself. Thompson Sons was a family business that forgot what family actually means. Morrison Construction is a family business that knows exactly what family means. It means respect, inclusion, shared success, and treating people like their contributions matter. Derek was right about one thing. I couldn't just walk away from everything our family had built over 70 years. So I didn't walk away from it. I bought it. The difference is, when I acquired those assets, I made them part of something better. I treated the employees with respect, I delivered quality work on time and within budget, and I built something that clients want to be part of because they know they'll be treated as partners rather than paychecks. The construction industry in Denver has taken notice. Morrison Construction is frequently mentioned in industry publications as an example of how family businesses can evolve and adapt to changing market conditions. We're invited to speak at conferences about innovative project management techniques, sustainable construction practices, and employee retention strategies. As I sit in my office overlooking downtown Denver, watching construction crews work on 4 different Morrison Construction projects visible from my window, I sometimes think about that Christmas party in 2019 when Derek told the room that the Paramount Hotel renovation was a testament to our family's commitment to excellence. He was right. It was a testament to family commitment to excellence, just not his family. Morrison Construction employs 68 people who depend on me to make smart decisions that protect their jobs, their benefits, and their futures. We've built schools where children learn, and hospitals where people heal, and offices where businesses grow and create jobs for other families. We've renovated historic buildings that preserve Denver's architectural heritage for future generations. And when I give speeches at industry events or client appreciation dinners, I always make sure to mention the specific contributions of our project managers, site supervisors, skilled tradespeople, administrative staff, and subcontractor partners who make our success possible. Because that's what family does. Family shares credit. Family includes everyone in success. Family remembers that individual achievements are really team achievements built on collective effort and mutual support. Thompson Sons forgot that lesson somewhere along the way. Morrison Construction lives it every single day. My children, Emma and Jake, are now 12 and 10 years old. They've grown up watching me build Morrison Construction from nothing into something significant. They understand that success comes from hard work, treating people with respect, and never accepting less than you deserve just to avoid conflict. Last month, Emma asked me why Uncle Derek's company failed while mine succeeded. Dad, Derek had a head start, right? Thompson Sons was already successful when you started Morrison Construction, so why did we win? It was a perceptive question from a 12-year-old. Because, sweetheart, success isn't about having a head start. It's about treating people well, solving problems creatively, and never stop trying to improve. Uncle Derek thought the Thompson name was enough to guarantee success. I knew I had to earn success every single day. But you're a Thompson too. Yes, but I learned that names don't build buildings or satisfy clients. People do. And if you want people to do their best work, you have to treat them like they matter. Emma nodded thoughtfully. Is that why people like working for Morrison Construction? That's exactly why. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply building something so successful, so respected, and so meaningful that people can't help but notice the contrast between what you've created and what others have let slip away. Sometimes when someone tells you family business is for family, the best response is to show them what family business really looks like when it's done right. Morrison Construction's mission statement, displayed prominently in our lobby, reads, "Building excellence through partnership." It's not just marketing language, it's a daily reminder that our success depends on treating everyone, clients, employees, subcontractors, suppliers, as partners in creating something valuable. That philosophy extends to our compensation structure. Unlike Thompson Sons, which operated on traditional hierarchical pay scales, Morrison Construction uses profit-sharing bonuses that ensure everyone benefits when we have successful years. Our project managers earn bonuses based on client satisfaction scores, not just project profitability. Our site supervisors receive recognition bonuses for innovative problem solving and safety improvements. Last year, our total profit-sharing distribution was $847,000, money that went directly to the people who earned it through excellent work rather than being hoarded by ownership. When the Denver Business Journal interviewed me about Morrison Construction's rapid growth, they asked what advice I'd give to other family businesses. Remember that family business should mean that you treat your business like a family, with respect, inclusion, and shared success. It shouldn't mean that only certain family members get to make decisions while others get excluded. The strongest families are the ones where everyone's contributions are valued. The article also quoted several Morrison Construction employees about the company culture. Marcus creates an environment where good ideas can come from anywhere, said Sarah Chen, our operations manager. I've worked for companies where innovation gets stifled by hierarchy and ego. Here, if you have a better way to do something, people listen. Miguel Rodriguez, our senior site supervisor, added, "I've been in construction for 20 years, and this is the first company where I feel like management actually respects the expertise of field workers. When we identify problems or suggest improvements, those ideas get implemented instead of ignored." The article concluded by noting that Morrison Construction's employee turnover rate is less than 4% annually, compared to an industry average of 21%. Derek called me after the article was published. "I read the Business Journal piece. Congratulations on the recognition. Thank you. I have to ask, was all of that a shot at how Thompson Sons operated?" Derek, I wasn't thinking about Thompson Sons when I gave that interview. I was thinking about Morrison Construction and what makes us successful. But the part about family businesses needing to include everyone instead of excluding people, that was pretty clearly about us. If the shoe fits, Derek. There was a long pause. "Marcus, I want you to know that I've learned from my mistakes. If I ever get another chance to run a business, I'll do things differently." "I hope so, Derek. I really do." "Do you think there's any chance we could repair our relationship? Not business-wise, but as brothers?" It was a question I'd been expecting for months. "I don't know, Derek. Trust takes a long time to rebuild once it's been broken. Right now, I'm focused on my business, my employees, and my children. Maybe someday we can find a way to be brothers again, but it would have to be different than before." "I understand." "And Marcus?" "Yeah? I'm proud of what you've built. I should have said that years ago." It was the first time Derek had ever acknowledged my success without qualification or backhanded compliments. "Thanks, Derek. That means something." As I finish writing this story, Morrison Construction is in the process of bidding on our largest project yet, a $12.8 million mixed-use development that will include retail space, offices, and luxury condominiums in downtown Denver. The client specifically requested Morrison Construction based on our reputation for delivering complex projects on time and within budget. If we get the contract, it will bring our annual revenue to over $35 million and require hiring another 15 employees. We're already identifying potential candidates and planning the organizational structure needed to handle that level of growth. The project site is located just 6 blocks from the building that used to house Thompson Sons offices. Derek sold that building last year and moved what remained of his business to a small shared workspace facility. He's currently working as an independent construction consultant, helping other companies with project management and client relations. The irony isn't lost on me that Morrison Construction might soon be building Denver's newest landmark development practically in the shadow of where Thompson Sons used to operate. People sometimes ask me if I ever regret leaving Thompson Sons or if I wish things had worked out differently with my family. The honest answer is no. I regret that family relationships were damaged, and I wish Derek had been capable of treating me as an equal partner. But I don't regret building Morrison Construction or proving that success comes from treating people well rather than relying on inherited advantages. Morrison Construction exists because I was excluded from Thompson Sons' real decision-making processes. Every successful project we complete, every satisfied client, every employee who feels valued and respected, it all traces back to that moment when I decided I deserved better than accepting less just to keep the peace. The construction industry is built on foundations, literal foundations that support buildings, and metaphorical foundations that support businesses. Thompson Sons was built on the foundation of family legacy and inherited reputation. Morrison Construction is built on the foundation of earned respect, proven performance, and genuine partnerships. Inherited foundations can crumble when they're not properly maintained. Earned foundations grow stronger over time because they're built on solid ground. When you understand the difference between inherited privilege and earned success, there's always room to build something better. When you know what family really means, respect, inclusion, shared success, and treating people like they matter, there's always space at the table for everyone who deserves to be there. Thompson Sons taught me what I didn't want to build. Morrison Construction is what I chose to build instead. And business, as they say, is very good.